I am so tired of financial advice. You know what I mean, right? It all feels like it was written for a robot, not a real, live, slightly chaotic human being. But it turns out there's this secret to building wealth that has nothing to do with being more disciplined. And that's what we're going to get into today. Oh, this old chestnut, we've all heard it a million times. It's the kind of advice that basically just says, hey, if you're broke, it's your fault. Just try harder. And when it inevitably fails, you're left feeling like a total loser. It's the worst. But here's the thing. What if that entire premise is just wrong? What if willpower isn't this bottomless well of virtue we're all supposed to have? What if it's a battery, a resource that runs out? Now, that's a question that changes the entire game. Okay, I'm intrigued. 40%. 40% of what exactly?
This is the number that really stopped me in my tracks when I was going through the research. A study out of Duke University found that a full 40% of our daily actions, the lunch you grabbed, the route you took to work, all of it, they aren't conscious decisions at all. They're just habits. Our brain is on autopilot way more than we think.
And this right here is the fundamental conflict. See, most financial advice forces you to use what we'll call your willpower brain all day long. But that brain is like a muscle. It gets tired. It gives out. The folks who are actually succeeding financially, they're not fighting their brain. They've cleverly outsourced all the heavy lifting to their habit brain. Oh, okay, so it's not about having more discipline. It's about building smarter systems? I love that. So how do we actually do that? We start in the most dangerous place for any budget, the kitchen. This is one of the biggest, most emotional spending categories for everyone. But the goal here isn't to deprive yourself. It's to disarm the situation, to take the whole battlefield of choices off the table. Okay, when I saw this number from the Cornell research you sent me, I actually laughed out loud. It's just unbelievable. Over 200? We make over 200 decisions related to food every single day? Okay, well, no wonder by 7 p.m. my only decision is pizza or Thai food. Exactly. And that feeling of complete exhaustion, it has a name. It's called decision fatigue. It's a real, documented psychological state. And after you make those 200 tiny decisions, your brain just searches for the easiest possible path forward.
Which is usually a $40 Uber Eats order.
Precisely. But here's the key. That's not a moral failure on your part. It's a biological reality. All right, I have to push back a little here. Eating the same 4 or 5 meals over and over? That sounds kind of sad and a little unhinged, to be honest.
I know, it sounds incredibly boring. But what it's actually doing is kind of genius. It automates the entire system. It kills hundreds of weekly decisions. Suddenly your grocery list writes itself. Cooking becomes pure muscle memory. And all that brain power is freed up for other things.
And hey, if you need a little financial motivation, that's the average amount of money a typical family throws in the trash every year as wasted food. $1,500. Whoa. So you're saying the habit of actually eating everything in your fridge is like playing a video game where the prize is finding a free $1,500 you didn't even know you'd lost? You know, this right here was a huge light bulb moment for me, because whenever someone says you have to cut out your daily latte, your brain immediately hears prepare for a life of misery. But the trick isn't to get rid of the pleasure, it's to move it. You turn your morning coffee at home into this amazing ritual. You get the great beans, the perfect mug. Suddenly, the cafe isn't a desperate daily need. It's an intentional, special treat. All right, let's move on from the kitchen and talk about all the other stuff. And to be clear, this is not about forcing you to become a minimalist who owns 3 great t-shirts. This is about understanding the invisible tripwires and psychological traps that make us click buy now on things we don't even really want. So let's start with this concept from MIT, which is just fascinating. It's called future self-delusion. It's this deep-seated belief we all have that the person we will be next week is going to be so much better, so much more disciplined than the person we are right now.
Oh my God, I know this person intimately. This is the guy who buys the family-sized bag of avocados at Costco because he's absolutely convinced future self is going to eat avocado toast for breakfast every single day. Spoiler alert, future self never shows up and the avocados just turn to brown mush.
And what about this? The mindless Instagram scrolling that somehow turns into online shopping. Or that quick trip to Target just to wander the aisles. It feels so harmless, doesn't it?
It does, but it's actually a form of training. Researchers at Stanford found that even just browsing for things online lights up the reward centers in our brains. We are literally conditioning ourselves to believe that the cure for feeling bored is to consume something.
Okay, so
If our brain is literally being trained to shop when it's bored, how in the world are we supposed to fight that?
See, that's the key. You don't fight it. You reframe the reward. The counter habit is to learn to love the things you already have. You become a proud outfit repeater. And this chart explains why that's so smart. The cost per wear of that expensive sweater you absolutely love and wear all the time actually becomes way, way cheaper than that $30 fast fashion thing you bought on a whim and wore once.
Okay, buckle up. Because this next idea, it might just be the most controversial one we talk about today. The secret to getting rich might just be to let your life get a little bit boring. I know, it sounds terrible, but the psychology behind it is just undeniable. This is the absolute core insight. When your life is predictable, when you generally know what you're doing on a Saturday or what's for lunch on a Tuesday, you eliminate the empty spaces, the voids, and it is in those voids that we make our most impulsive and most expensive decisions. Right. You're not waking up on a Sunday morning going, what should we do? And then stumbling into a $100 brunch just because. You already have a plan. You're just executing it. And this principle applies literally everywhere. Just think about the beauty and skincare industry. It thrives on something psychologists call complexity bias. That's our brain's mistaken belief that a complicated 10-step routine has to be better than a simple 3-step one. But the truth? A simple routine you actually stick with consistently will always deliver better and cheaper results than a complex one you give up on after a week. Okay, let's bring this all home. We've talked about automating our kitchens and maybe even embracing a little bit of a boring routine. Now let's talk about the 2 final habits that do the real heavy lifting for you, the ones that put your wealth building on true autopilot. So let's talk about the most hated word in all of finance, budgeting. But look at this number first. There was a study where people were told to do nothing more than just track what they spent each day. No goals, no rules, no cutting back. And just by doing that, they naturally spent 15% less.
Wait, just from paying attention? That's it?
That's it. Just from the simple act of awareness, which proves the most critical point of all of this. It was never about restriction. It was always about information. And that idea leads us to the ultimate wealth building hack, making saving completely effortless. The reason this works is a psychological principle called mental accounting. Your brain, weirdly enough, doesn't treat all money the same. Money that's in a savings account feels different. It feels spoken for, almost untouchable. Which is exactly why paying yourself first is so powerful. You just automate the transfer for the day you get paid, the money is gone before you even see it, you never miss it, and your brain just automatically adjusts to living on whatever's left. It's magic. And this, right here, this is the payoff. This is why all of those little, unsexy, boring habits matter so much.
Wow. Just wow. Putting aside $500 a month from age 25 to 65 can grow to more than $1.3 million. That is the jaw-dropping, stunning power of automation and compounding just quietly working in the background while you go about living your life.
So, when you put it all together, this new path to wealth becomes incredibly clear. It's a system that's based on psychology, not on shame. You figure out which habits are tripping you up, you automate the boring stuff that actually moves the needle, and in doing so, you
save your precious willpower for the things that truly matter in your life. It's a complete reprioritization of your mental energy.
Look, the goal here isn't to walk away and perfectly implement all of this tomorrow. That's not realistic. The goal is to just start, to pick one small thing. So ask yourself, what is one unsexy, boring habit you can put on autopilot this week? Is it setting up that automatic transfer? Is it planning out your meals? Just pick one. Because the moment you stop fighting your brain and start working with it, that's where real lasting wealth is built.